Awesome. Well, I will start us off here. I'm Jake Noonan, and you guys are listening to Chair 9 podcast. I'm sitting down today with Cindi Busenhart, who is the CEO and founder of Merge Force Socks. Cindy, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the listeners?
Sure. My name's Cindi Busenhart, and I am super excited to be doing this because we just did a collab talk with you guys.
Yeah.
So those are coming out fairly quickly, and Dodge Ridge in particular holds a near and dear space in my heart. Is the first place I learned how to snowboard. I sat on the board of Snow Sports Industries of America. I actually vice chaired for a while. So it's kind of like a full circle for me. And it's also the first resort that we've done a custom sock for. So I'm like, we're so excited. It's everything for me. It actually reminds me of being in snow sports prior and coming out with Gore-Tex jackets. Where socks are right now, it kind of reminds me of that. Like when we came out with Gore-Tex jackets and a company that I had before, it's one of the original snowboard brands to come out with Gore-Tex. And so we come out with this jacket, and people used to call us up and be like, "Oh my gosh, we got wet through our jacket, blah 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 blah." And no, 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 you're just wearing a t-shirt. And that's
hmm
where socks are to me right now. It's an underdeveloped category, and there's so much opportunity there. It's ridiculous, and so much technology that you can actually take from technical outerwear and actually put into socks. It seems kind of crazy, but you want things that will wick. You want to make sure that there's a little bit of compression. You want to make sure that your toes don't get all funky because there's like those little things on the sides. There's all these different things that you can add to and develop in socks, and I truly believe it's an underdeveloped category. And there's still so much more to come. So it
Yeah.
reminds me of that early phase of snowboarding and technical outerwear. So I'm really excited, and Merge Pour is also all about community. So this coming full circle is all good for me as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So you talk about how Dodge is one of the first resorts, or the first resort that you learned to snowboard at. You kind of touch base on previous companies that you worked for. Can you kind of dive into your history of, I know through my research that you started with Sessions, I believe. Was there anything prior to that growing up, that any companies that you worked for, or was Sessions kind of your big first company?
I had a bunch of little companies prior to that. I had a surf shop for a while and sold that for a bunch of different reasons. And then also actually, we didn't sell it, we closed it up. And then had a point of purchase display. We did some of the first trade show booth stuff for like Burton and a bunch of different brands. So we did that. And then my partnership came into play with Sessions, and I was at Sessions for years. And when we sold that, we ended up selling it to a Japanese company. And
Okay.
after we sold that, uh, one of the opportunities was for me to actually go, okay, what do I want to do next? What is another opportunity? And it's funny. We have a small not super small, but we have a skateboard contest that we are part of with the Tim Brosh Foundation. And
Okay.
we just had this huge skateboard contest. And after that, my son and I went to Tahoe, and he skateboards a ton. So he was kick flipping, and just blowing through his shoes and socks. And he wanted to go to dinner. And he was just like, you can't go to dinner with these bloody nubs. Like, let's at least get you a new pair of socks. And so we were in Tahoe, and I was just looking at socks. I went into a sock shop and was looking at different socks. And I was like, with all the technical outerwear experience of years of developing that, I can bring some of that into socks. And of course, like the response was just like, "Oh, why are you going to do that? There's some heavy hitters in that category." And I'm like, I still think that they could be developed, and it's a great opportunity to do it. So we did it. We actually tested some socks. One of our founding partners is Rob Roskop, founder of Santa Cruz Bikes, amazing skateboarder for years, one of the best-selling decks, I think, of all time. Anyway, I brought my business plan to him, and he was one of the original investors, along with a guy named Geely Locatelli, who's a family friend. And so we did some amazing things with those two, and they were very patient. Rob was very patient with me because I just be like, let's tweak it again, let's tweak it again. I think we could do this better. And then working with a bunch of different artists, like it really started with that contest, kind of going back. We had some amazing photographs from Mofo, who's one of the original guys over at Thrasher magazine. And so he's got some iconic prints. And so I was like, what if you put art on socks, in addition to having technical socks, but really where they have a kind of a model where they have some, some kind of game with it, they've got their foot in the game. So we did a different type of model. And then working with Rob, one of the things that I wanted to do is establish early on as a B corporation. So much like Patagonia or Clean Canteen, it's really a focus on sustainability and ethical business practices, and making sure that you have some sort of community impact, and all those things are really important to me. I think they should be important to any company in general. So putting that in place, if for some strange reason somebody doesn't want me involved in this market, and that stays. So building that from the very get-go, people know exactly what we stand for, what our values are, what our mission is. Like, they know that we're an ethical business company. So, looking out for those things, especially coming from snow, like sustainability was a big thing at Snow Sports Industries of America, big conversations with regard to those things. So those are kind of some of the great things. And then segueing that into like artists and athletes, because of Rob Roscopp's, Santa Cruz bike thing at the time, and now moving into Specialized, we've got some amazing bicycle athletes, like mountain biker Greg Menard is an example, one of the best mountain bikers of all time. He's also a shareholder. He believed in the brand so much, he became a shareholder, and loves the socks. Like, he is a big promoter of the socks.
Greg's a 4-time downhill champion, isn't he? Is that correct, or is he?
I think the most downhill championships of all time.
Okay, yeah, no, that's a huge name.
And he's also like a good person, like always trying to find better opportunities in different ways. He's very, very involved. Actually did some back and forth with him today. Minna Stess, also a female skateboarder, and
okay,
like, yay to the women. Like, I really want to promote Minna. And when I was talking to you about the Tim Brosh Foundation and that contest, Minna, I think, skated that when she was like 3. So we've actually watched Minna go from, very young skateboarder to Olympic athlete. And I just applaud her. I just think it's awesome that she's done what she's done. So Minna, and then Rick Thorne, BMX rider, again, very active, very involved. And then we've got some like icons, some all-time greats, which is really kind of the foundation of where we started. Steve Caballero, like, doesn't get better than that. Christian Hosoi, Tony Alva, Eric Dressen, Salba. And a lot of those introductions were done through Spidey. So great opportunity and people that we've worked with. And again, all these people are just awesome. So we have Merch Corps has one rule and one rule only. It's a no asshole rule. And so these guys and girls are just awesome.
Oh, that's incredible. Establishing all these connections, would you say that a lot of it, you were familiar with it coming from having your surf shop, working at Sessions? Did a lot of that transfer over, or was it kind of like once you closed the surf shop and got away from Sessions, was it kind of a whole new reboot?
Well, at that set, like, I was one of the owners. Joel Gomez and I are both owners of Sessions. So, that had a lot of perks with a lot of different athletes and musicians and things like that. So it was easy to kind of make phone calls to people saying, hey, I've got this idea. What do you think? because they'd been friends with him for years. So that was easy. Other people have done introductions, which have been great. Keith Meek, which was our original artist here at Merge 4, also amazing skateboarder, introduced us to Jimbo Phillips. And, Jimbo Phillips is known for that iconic skateboard, Santa Cruz skateboard kind of art. And then musicians. We work with Bobby Brown. He does a lot of art for Jeff Emmett at Pearl Jam. So we did a Jeff Emmett sock. And a lot of the stuff ties into nonprofits and things like that. We did artwork for Bradley's house, which is through the Knoll Family Foundation, Bradley Knoll of Sublime's family. So, of course, we have Sublime socks, and that's one of the, designs and kind of collaborations that I'm so happy with. Kelly Knoll of the Knoll Family Foundation is just awesome. And what they do to provide recovery support for addicts and addiction is just awesome. We collaborate with them on a regular basis. So, again, the best of the best people, super kind. And then, we work with Lisa Hudson for Boarding for Breast Cancer. Again, I think you guys at Dodge Ridge do an event with Boarding for Breast Cancer. So
we do, yeah.
With them. Sometimes we can lift those up and put them in, and sometimes we can't because we've got, different breast looking things on the socks, which are great. But yeah, we've got a sock collaboration through another one of our shareholders, Guy Kawasaki, that introduced us to the Jane Goodall Foundation. So working with these people and giving back to support different things is kind of what our focus is, on top of, making kick-ass socks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you said it was inspired, or the thought kind of popped into your mind after this skateboarding incident with your son where he tore through, he's bleeding, you went to go to dinner. You went to get him some socks beforehand. Did you think at that moment, did you realize how big this could be, or was it just kind of like a fleeting thought and like, oh, like maybe, or were you pretty determined from the start to dive headfirst into this and then transform it into what it's become?
That's a really good question. So yeah, I looked at him originally and I was like, I think I can make these better. And I was telling my son, he doesn't like the things on the side. He was like one of those tag kids. He's a grown man right now. But, I was just like, okay, what if I did this and this? He's like, okay, kind of like, whatever, mom. You can have your own stuff going on. I'm good. But I was just like, I think I can do some different things. And then I started really digging in to the demographic. And when I left Snow Sports Industries of America, the industry was like, I think like $7.4 billion, which is awesome. But, when you throw in boots, bindings, poles, it really kind of narrows that down. And socks was projected to be 60 billion by this year, one category. So I was like, all of a sudden I sat up straight and started digging. And then I did a pretty detailed business plan. And I have a ton of respect for Rob Roskop. So, and we worked together on different things. And so I shot my business plan his way. And I was like, hey, can you find the holes in this? Because it's looking pretty good. And he's like, no. And he became, like I said, one of the original investors. And he's really active, super active, and really kind, very charitable. Just gave me 15 autographed decks for the junior board members of the Tim Brosh Foundation. So that was really nice of him. But yeah, his patience, he developed, I think, the Ferrari of bikes, I think he's doing that more now. It's specialized and really kind of focusing on that. But, for him to be patient with me as I developed a sock, a lot of people think a sock is a sock, but it's really not. It's like an outerwear jacket, it's different, with different things in it. And so, I think those are great. And then, some of the give back things go even as recent. We are trying to do whatever we can to provide some relief for the LA fires. We just had an event that through Guy Kawasaki and his family, we donated 1,000 pairs of socks, and that went through
Wow.
Becker's surf shop. And one of our collaborators, this is how awesome our team is. One of our collaborators, Adam Keeley, who lives in Santa Monica, so that's a beeline, but he couldn't, so he had to go
Mhm.
up the ridge and down to get to Becker's to pass out socks. And then we worked with the Santa Clara County firefighters
Okay.
and got socks out thanks to a gentleman there, which is also part of the Santa Cruz Longboard Union. And we got socks out to base camp.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
huge.
some of the people, the firefighters in base camp, we got them tall socks so their
Yeah.
boots would be good.
That's awesome. Yeah, in my off season, so I do in the wintertime I'm here at Dodge Ridge, but in the summertime I'm a wildland firefighter. So socks go a long ways, and yeah, the tall socks and the boots. It's the most important thing is your feet. Honestly, you're standing on them all day, and yeah, so having a nice.
Sure people's feet are healthy is so important. And, Matt Freeman was really, really good about finding different stations that were at base camp and which base camp they were at so we could send those out to them. And through him, actually, and this is why community is so important, through him, actually, we were able to work with Malibu Surfing Association. Say that 5 times fast.
Yeah.
And that's how we got socks into Becker's, and we're able to give out those socks. And again, through the donation of Guy Kawasaki. But people keep throwing, doing donations through our website, and that allows us to have that, provide that community support to our neighbors, from
Yeah.
one surfing community, because we're based out of Santa Cruz. So from
Hmm.
one surfing community to another, that's kind of a pretty important thing for us. And we gave them different socks that had different surf breaks on them here in Santa Cruz. So just to show kind of our support.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So with making the quality socks something that you guys focus on is the it being ethical and sustainable. Can you kind of dive in for the listeners on what that process is like? Because I mean, I don't know what goes into making an ethical and sustainable sock or, and quality. Cause I feel like people might get a misconception that like, oh, the quality is going to go down if you make it sustainable or so on and so forth. Can you kind of dive into that and explain what that process is like?
Sure. One of the things that we did when we developed outerwear is develop fabric so it's easy to figure out yarns by developing fabric, right? So some of the yarns that we've used in the past are reprieve. And so in socks, I hear a lot of what people say, and you'll probably appreciate that being up in the snow. Oh, I want 100% cotton sock. And you
Hmm.
actually don't, because it doesn't wick moisture. It is prone to bacteria. Like it'll stink at the end of the day. You really want to keep your feet dry. It's healthier for your feet. So having that, poly and nylon combo is really important. So we worked with Reprieve, which actually takes plastic from like beach communities across the globe. And for that polyurethane that they get out of that, they spin that in with, for us, we had organic cotton. So we spun it together to create, I think, a really good sustainable sock. Other things that we've used are hemp and things like that. Tencel, which is part of wood. We haven't done anything with wool because there's something called mulesing where they cut, too much information, but they cut a sheep's tail. And I think it's a little inhumane. People ask us that all the time. Are you going to do wool? And the answer is probably not.
Fair enough.
Not until there's really a better humane way to kind of harvest that wool. But overall, doing whatever we can, recycling poly whenever we can, and then on top of just the socks, also to do that within our own office and our own community. So we measure how much cardboard recycle, we measure how much paper we recycle. We do all kinds of things, and those are some of the things that we have to do for B Corp as well. And that is a super humbling experience. Like you might just think you kick ass in your sustainability, and then you go through this arduous kind of, it's not really a test, but kind of, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but just there's all these things that you have to fill out for that. And you might be thinking you're doing good, and then you realize that you could be doing so much more.
Yeah. Well, I think that's important though. It's like, you guys obviously that's at the forefront of your mind and you're learning from that experience and going through that arduous process of, well, this is how we can be even better. So I guess I'm sure it was humbling at first to see how much better you could be, but then it's motivating to put you to that next level and to continue to progress and have that be the forefront of your business model, I'd assume.
I'm inspired by it personally because I got, I'm a big before and after person. So seeing what you've done and thinking it's good and then seeing what you've done again and seeing that increase, or those are all just great things. So for me, I
Yeah.
find it inspiring. So
No, absolutely. Do you have people approach you then? Because so with all these collaborations, you listed off some big names. You have Greg Minnar, you have Sublime, you have people who are in the Hall of Fame of skateboarding, Tony Alva and Neil Blender. Are they approaching you for collaborations or are you approaching them? And if people are approaching you, is it because they're buying into your business model and because you guys are ethical and sustainable?
well, I'll use Steve Caballero as an example, who I love, by the way. He, like, at first I was like, hey, try these socks on, tell me if you like them. Because Stevie, I don't think would go for anything that he doesn't like, right? And if it doesn't work, I don't think he would, like, he'd be like, oh, like, he'd be polite about it, but he'd just be like, yeah, I can't do it for ABC reasons, right? But he liked the socks. So the socks worked for him. And then, of course, he's a great artist. So combining those two was an easy thing. But I reached out to him and a few other people because, of course, I had to at the very beginning. But they continue to give me art. The person that I have the hardest time getting art from, honestly, out of that group is Eric Dressen. I like Eric, come on. I love his art and like whatever. And he's like, I don't know how to beat that sock. So we're good. And he's the kindest. I mean, I don't know him personally, as well. I know him enough to go back and forth, but not as well as I know somebody like Stevie, who I could vent to if I really wanted to. But yeah, I'm just like, come on, you got give us something else because people love his stuff. So, but yeah, everyone's pretty kind and as quick as I can turn it, being a small business, I do my best. So
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, along with being ethical and sustainable, you kind of touched on giving back. You mentioned the Jane Goodall Foundation. At one point, I was reading an article that a pair of your socks got sent to Jane Goodall. How does that feel? And just can you kind of dive into not only being sustainable and ethical, but giving back and how that plays into your business model as well?
Sure. That was through our board member and another shareholder, Guy Kawasaki, who's like the of Apple fame. And again, super awesome guy. Definitely super nice guy. He's got a podcast called the Remarkable People Podcast. And, he's worked with some amazing people. And one of them was Jane Goodall, who personally happens to be like one of my favorite. Like if I had my daughter dress up as her, which I don't think the guy knows that, but I had my daughter dress up as her for her Halloween one year. Like she didn't get to be Cinderella; she was Jane Goodall. Complete with stuffed monkeys. So
Yeah.
yeah, so to be able to Guy pass socks off to her, and to be able to get a picture of that, just like what? Like another thing that I think is a really good story is a friend of mine who's a keyboarder from Santa Cruz, arguably one of the better keyboarders in the world, paid for everyone. His name's Derek Shredian. He did keyboards for Kiss as well. And so he was like, hey, I think those guys are interested. I'm like, okay. And then I get this phone call from a blocked number to my cell. I'm like, what? He answered the phone, like, hello, this is Gene Simmons. So, like, I thought I was getting punked. I seriously thought I was getting punked. So I was like, okay, being as snarky as always. And then realizing it, like, he said one thing in the conversation, and I don't watch a ton of TV, but I watched one segment of his reality TV show, and he said, like, what say you? And so, and he repeated that to me, like, "Oh, let's do this. What say you?" I'm like, "Oh, shit, that really is." Like, I totally thought I was getting punked. But I think, you know, people appreciate quality. And so when you bring that off to them and then you bring off good work, because we've got their art that we, um, manipulate and put on our socks. And they come out great. So, people appreciate that, I think, a lot. And so, again, like if you've got a performance-based sock that looks really good, and then we can tie it into stuff like, I don't know, if I brought some stuff out here that,
Yeah, no, hold them up. Absolutely.
yeah, we're doing some socks right now that are just performance based, typical, not typical, but like more conventional athletics. So, and again, go back to my son. Both my son and my daughter are athletes, and so my son played volleyball, indoor volleyball for a long time. So I wanted to make something that was really good on the, like, sports arena, the traditional sports. So we brought in some new socks that we're doing. These should be out fairly quickly.
Okay.
Again, performance based socks, like arch support, all kinds of things that like every athlete would love. Spartan athletes, CrossFit athletes, conventional sports, athletes would love to get that kind of low grade kind of compression that just keeps your blood circulating. It's not super restricting, but enough to keep your blood flowing, which lets you go out there and do things longer. So that's always good.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's incredible. So, well, you mentioned that you're doing a custom pair for Dodge Ridge. Do you know what the timeline is on that and when people are going to be able to pick those up in the shop? I'd imagine you've been chatting with Bobby in the shop.
I'm super excited about those. I can't wait for them to get into your stores. So I would guess sometime mid February they'll be in.
Okay. So yeah, right around the corner. Right around the corner.
Yeah, I think they'll exit. It'll be right after the Lunar New Year.
Okay.
But yeah, we do custom socks for a lot of people. We just finished some custom socks for the Santa Cruz Warriors. So here's some of those.
Okay, there you go. That's the feeder team to Golden State Warriors, correct?
Yeah, that's part of Golden State Warriors. And I hope that segues into the women's.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. We do socks for a bunch of bands that aren't on our website. Joe Bonamassa, and I mentioned Derek Shrinian before. He got us this great jazz guitarist. Just
Okay.
a lot of like Voodoo Glow Skulls, a lot of bands that Steve Caballero's band Urethane, a lot of socks that we do for bands that actually aren't always on our sites. So, and we do socks for Coachella, which is great.
Okay.
Coachella, Stagecoach. We've done socks for California Roots. We've got a great relationship with Otis Link. And we are in the founders booth with him and Gary Tobar. Gary was the founder of Golden Voice. So we do socks for their events, the weekends in a row. So it's always really nice. And again, working with awesome people. So
yeah, no, that's awesome. So they'll be able to find the socks in the shop in about 2 weeks. If somebody wanted to go order some right now, can you plug your social or your website or anything like that where people can?
You don't do that. It's all you.
Oh, that's all me. I get to plug it. Okay, I can do that.
So yeah, I think that I hope they do great. I'm excited. I think that they'll, I think that the people that go there and go into the shop are going to love them. So
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be neat. So
it's an additional way to support Dodge Ridge.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's say somebody wanted to pick up some socks that weren't necessarily specific for Dodge Ridge. Where could they find your socials? I guess I should rephrase my question. That's what I was going for.
On Instagram, Merge4 Socks, merge4.com for e-commerce.
Okay.
Lots of local shops around, and
Yeah.
hopefully building more into your area.
Yeah, absolutely. I know there's a few. I'm sure there's plenty of shops in downtown Sonora that would eat that up. So, yeah, that'll be a good segue. So
yeah, and so we're just building that base, and I'm excited for 2025 to continue doing that. We've had our share of hardships with massive storms here in Santa Cruz, and COVID, and coming right off COVID, being able to breathe, and then just getting hit so hard. We were in an evacuation zone, so for 4 solid months we were tortured.
Yeah.
So now we're like, oh, and coming off of that, it's been whatever, a year, a little over a year. Like, okay, 2025 is it. We've recovered from all that stuff. We can just focus on our brand, which is...
No, that is awesome. Awesome. Well, before we wrap this thing up, can you touch base or just share any of your favorite stories in this whole process from start to finish, from your son tearing his sock to where you're at now? Any of your favorite memories that you'd like to throw in there?
Yeah, I mean, those are some of the big memories, but I think really working with the people, I've had so many good opportunities to go to events, and being brought into Coachella was awesome through Otis Link. So awesome. And he's an amazing artist. Here, actually, I have some of his socks here. So this is a no-show that we did with him.
Okay.
He just does great art, edgy, right in line with what I like. And so that opened the door. So sitting up on a wall, kind of watching Beyonce go, that was pretty fun, because everybody just stormed. I'm not a super Beyonce fan, but that performance was freaking phenomenal.
Yeah.
Just crushed it. So I was like, oh my gosh, amazing performance. So just little things like that, being able to work with my family, and those are awesome. And really kind of, my shareholders are so awesome. Our board members are great. We've gone through ups and downs, and our board members, which Rob Roskop's one, another guy's Nico Peruzzi, who does analytics and is there for so much support. It's amazing. He and his family are just awesome. So just the support and working with great people, like
Yeah.
Bill Phillips' laugh is always funny. So if he's at an event and he starts laughing, it's always funny. Just like little things like that most people would maybe go, oh, that was awesome. I like his laugh.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for sitting down, Cindi. I really appreciate it. Your story's awesome. I'm looking forward to picking up a pair of those socks, and I'll definitely be rocking them in the summertime as well underneath my Wildland boots. So
awesome.
Ah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Got the dog barking in the background.
Yeah,
so.
no worries.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
All right. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.